Seems like a long time since we last done this.
I know. I mean, we're giving ourselves away here a little bit, but we did a lot of pre-recording of our podcast in 2023.
We pre-recorded a lot of the interviews, but we do this bit more often than the interviews.
But it's been a little while, Stephen. I think we're feeling a bit rusty.
Feeling a bit rusty.
It's feeling a bit different being back on camera and doing the podcast, but actually I have to say I have missed it.
Yeah, me too. And now, I mean, it's full kit. Think about this time last year when we were just sitting with two little mics.
I know, and to be honest, the production's really gone up in scale, and I have to say that's not due to you, Stephen. That's due to our fantastic videographer, Brian.
And videographer, podcaster, and now Brian has his own offshoot podcast of In the Club.
He has. I remember him presenting that idea. And what is In the Club, or what is it?
It's not In the Club.
It's At the Club.
It's In the Club presents At the Club.
Okay.
And yeah, it's going to be a lot more frequent than our one, so he's going to probably take over us eventually.
Yeah, I know that Brian needs to be watched. Can you tell us a little bit about what At the Club is?
Well, it is an opportunity for us, for Brian, and Class for Kids to talk to our customers, but not just our customers, a much wider kind of net of people that have been involved with kids' activity clubs, and maybe people that have gone on from kids' activity clubs or from dance, football, gymnastics to do things that are much different. And it's going to be a lot more frequent. It's going to be shorter, sort of bite-sized bits, but yeah, it's going to be dropping. By the time this drops, there's probably going to be one coming right after it.
Yeah, I know. Brian was talking to us about this idea and this concept, and I think one of the things going into 2024 at Class for Kids, just quickly before we get to the next podcast, is that we do want to do a little bit more of bringing experts in, and the ones that really know this industry. We know it well, but they're the ones that know it inside out, and we want to learn with customers and clubs alongside them while they're learning that, and I think At the Club is going to be a great addition to our podcast family.
And on that, I mean, if you've got any wish or want to be on that podcast or our podcast,
you can slide into our DMs at Class for Kids UK.
Yeah, that's it. What she said. That's the bit I didn't know. So you don't know much about today's guest?
I don't, because I was off when this guest came in. I was on holiday because I took a
Well,
holiday.
I don't know that much because I didn't interview her because it's a football guest.
Oh, okay. So in case you've missed the rewind, let's rewind a little bit. Stephen can't interview footballers. He says they sniff him out.
Yeah, they get me straight away. They literally just look at me and go, "You don't know football."
So a few months ago, we went down to London and we brought one of our colleagues, Darren, down with us to interview some of the football stars. And I think it's Daz that's doing this podcast this time.
It is. This podcast has just grown arms and legs, isn't it? More cast members. This is the second year,
Yeah.
And it is getting bigger. Daz is going to be, and is, our kind of football correspondent, so that when he's talking to them, he's talking like
the right
talking
language.
the talk and not just kind of sliding the talk like I do. And it was terrible. It was bad. He didn't ever want to hear me doing it.
It was. So who is Daz catching up with in this podcast?
Daz is catching up with an elite female footballer.
Oh.
Lucy Ronald. She's a Scottish footballer who's played for Motherwell, Glasgow City, and is currently, her career's just going like that. I think we've caught it at the right time because she's probably going to, I won't say too much. I have listened to it. There's lots of scope for this girl in the future. There's also lots, I think, that we could potentially be doing with her in 2024 and beyond. She is one to watch. This is what I'll say. She's absolutely one to watch, and I think we've got her right at the right time.
And for our clubs that are out there, I take it there's going to be some golden nuggets in there for them to take away.
Golden nuggets of pure joy.
Well, rather than listening to us ramble, I think we should just get stuck straight into the podcast.
Let's do that. Here is Lucy Ronald being interviewed by Daz about football.
Tell us a bit about your journey into professional football. What kind of made you pursue a career in football? Was it something you were always interested in at a young age? When did you start playing? All that sort of stuff.
Yeah, football's always been a massive part of my life.
Yep.
I get into it really young. My brother played, and I just wanted to be exactly like him. I played by a boys' team for a wee bit and then joined Glasgow City. I was there for 8 years. Their youth setup's really, really good there. I was really grateful for my time at Glasgow City. But I think for me, being a young girl playing at that time, I didn't think there was a career in football.
Yeah.
There wasn't really visible role models at that time, which is obviously massively changing now, which is good to see. But I would only say in the last 4 years, I've really thought, no, I want to pursue a career.
Yeah.
In football, I always saw it as a hobby. Like, I loved it. I never saw myself not playing football.
Yeah.
But it was never something that I thought you could make a career out of.
Yeah.
Obviously still not full-time just now, but I've got the aspiration to get there, and yeah, it's good now that young girls is as young as 10 when I started at Glasgow City can see those players.
Yeah, totally.
Which we didn't have when we were
Aye,
younger.
100%. Obviously, like traditionally, it has been a male-dominated sport, as you say. And what kind of challenges did that bring up for you? Is it obviously you've touched on maybe not having the role models and stuff as a young girl growing up playing football? Would you say that was kind of main challenges? Anything else that kind of could have prevented you at that age from doing what you're doing now?
I think so. I think there's a lot of things, like I hope it's changing now for young girls, but then it was sort of, you'd see a girl playing and all the boys would be looking and comments would be made, but it was never something that got me down. I actually loved it. Like I loved going to play with the boys, and you'd show up and you'd see them all looking. And I had confidence that I knew I could play, do you know what I mean? So I loved when you'd get the ball at your feet and take it around a couple of them, and they'd be raging and trying to clean you out and stuff. Like I did love that, but you could see how it could have the opposite effect.
No, definitely. I remember like when I played boys club football, it was same kind of situation, like 8, 9 years old, and there was like a girl joined my team, and I was probably one of those people that was a bit like what's going on here, like finding it a bit strange. But then when you seen how good she was and how much she enjoyed it and how she could actually handle herself like amongst the boys and in like actual games and stuff, then it's like, you totally deserve and have earned the right to be playing. And it's great to see that, how many people kind of enjoy the sport now and how much it's grown in the women's side of things. Something else I wanted to ask, do you remember first realising like, I'm actually quite decent, like I'm quite good at football? Was there a moment where you thought like I've got a wee chance here of kind of making it in the professional game?
I don't know, like I've always lacked confidence, I'd say. It's one thing I have, but like when I was younger, I knew I was good. Like when I played with the boys, I was confident, and I played with my brother, and like I knew I was good then. And then I think like youth career, there was like it's obviously ups and downs of it. Scotland camps, not getting selected, kind of puts doubt in your mind if you're going to get there. And I still to this day don't know if I think I'm good enough to get there. I think, I don't know, it's a hard one. I know I'm a good player, but it's hard to know if
how good
if I think I'm good enough,
like in comparison to the obviously the women that are in the full-time game as well. No, totally. And again, like we spoke briefly about that, the cup final and stuff and the goal that you scored. What are some of the other highlights of your career so far? Obviously you're only 21, so you've got many years ahead of you, out injured at the moment, but anything else that kind of stands out so far? What have some of the main highlights been?
I would say making my Glasgow City debut with the first team was big for me.
Yeah.
I'd been
How
there
old were you then?
18.
Wow.
17, 18. That was massive for me, because obviously I'd been at the club for such a long time. It's a club that means a lot to me. Yeah. And to make my debut against Rangers, it was really, really good. Yeah. And other this season, the season just there, where I got injured, as much as that was the worst possible end to my season, there was so many highlights of it. Yeah. And then to get the Women's Player of the Year at the end of that season after getting the injury was really, really good. I'd say that's a big highlight for me. But there's been many ups, I think. Yeah. As I say, getting Glasgow Women promoted was amazing. Aye. Signing for Hibs was a big one as well. I think it was like a pivotal time in my career where I needed something more to develop me as a player, and I think that was the perfect thing for me. I was training with full-time players that have played at the elite level for a long, long time, Scotland internationalists, and I learned a lot in that period, I think.
Aye. Well, you've already achieved quite a lot for someone your age especially, so interesting to see, in 10 years' time what other things you will have done in the game. And have you got kind of lofty ambitions to go into the sort of full-time women's professional game? Is that something that you want to do?
Absolutely, yeah. It's definitely my biggest ambition is to play full-time. I'm desperate to give everything to football. Yeah. And obviously the injury set me back a little bit, but if anything it's going to drive me more to get
totally.
Back there,
I was going to just touch on that, having played football at obviously a fairly decent level when I was in my younger days. Obviously I know how frustrating injuries are, how frustrating it has been injured. Edit that, Brian. And just not being able to impact things and going and watching from the side, and seeing like your pals playing and you not being able to do it, and how frustrating has that been for you so far since you've been out injured? Was it, did you say end of last season?
End of last season, yeah.
You picked up that injury.
Yeah, it's been really, really tough. I think the time that I did it, we were playing the semi-final against Rangers at Hampden the week after. So to miss out on that was, we were actually playing Fir Park and then Hampden in the 1 week, which I missed out on, which was gutting for me. And then obviously having to watch the games this season and knowing that I can't be a part of it on the pitch has been really hard. I've never sustained an injury before really in my career, let alone one as severe as an ACL injury, but it's really tough. Everyone that's, as you say, if you've gone through an injury, you know what it's like, especially when you're out for such a long time, and you know you've got a lot more of it to come, but it's just trying to stay motivated and support the girls as well, because they've been very supportive of me.
Yeah, so. Brilliant. I know it's like, I was going to ask if it's something you'd experienced before, but if it's something completely new to you, then you can only imagine how tough it is. And as I say, like, going and watching's great, but not being able to actually go, and you probably feel yourself in certain games that I could make a difference here, or I could impact this, and you're obviously not able to at the moment. And alongside that, any other kind of challenges that you've faced so far, and anything you've had to overcome to get to where you are just now?
I think just, you know, there's always points in your career where maybe certain managers don't think you're good enough, or not getting selected for Scotland teams in my youth career. I found that really hard. It's just overcoming them, and I think there is definitely things that you need to overcome, but definitely ups and downs. But I think it's probably just people not thinking you're good enough at certain areas, and you need to have the confidence to come back from it. Yeah,
I get that in here all the time. And obviously, like, you're a role model to young aspiring girls that want to get into football, and as I said, it's great, you know, how much that the game's developed over the years and become, you know, a lot more popular and a lot more open to young girls. And what kind of message would you have for a young girl if you could speak to yourself maybe 10, 11 years ago? What would your message be for any girl that wants to make a career in football?
I would just say to have confidence in yourself, and you'll have setbacks, you'll have people turning their nose up at the fact you're a girl playing football. As I say, hopefully that's changing, but it's just to know what you want and keep going for it. I think going through high school is a difficult one. I think both male and female, it's where you see kids that fall away from the game, and I think as long as you've got the ambition, there's a lot of sacrifice that goes into it, and just to have that is good. As I say now, there's far more role models, and forget like the girls that come and watch. I still find it mind blowing to see, like, because I never saw a women's game when I was younger.
I know it's obviously a lot, you know, easier and better for them now than when you were growing up, and it's great that they've got, you know, people like you and your teammates and all the other, you know, women that play in the league and stuff to look up to. How does that, like, kind of make you feel when you're playing in front of fans and you see maybe like younger girls that maybe remind you of yourself from when you were that age, and what's that kind of like playing in front of crowds on, you know, a weekly basis, obviously before your injury?
Yeah, it's just amazing to see. Like, I still can't believe that I'm at a level where, you know, there is kids that look up to you. I think it is wild to see how, like, a lot of our youth academy come along and watch, and you can see how much it means to them, like, before the game and after the game, and they're coming and chatting, and it's good to spend time with them, because I think that's something when I was younger, like, you really appreciated. When I was at Glasgow City, if the senior team was, do you know, took time to come
totally. Just that making a wee bit of effort, isn't it, can go a long way. Even if it's just they come and watch a training session or the odd game here and there, I can imagine it makes a big difference. And like Motherwell's a real family club as well. What's kind of your favourite thing about playing for them since you signed, away from the kind of the pitch? What else do you enjoy about being at Motherwell?
I think it's just such a good group we've got. Like, it's a really, really good club. All the girls, we are like a family, and we see each other outside the football and stuff, and I absolutely love it there. It's been really, really good, and the club it's a really great club. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Away from football, hobbies, interests. What do you get up to in your spare time? Because you don't watch football, so what else you get up to?
People ask me this, and I always find it a tough. I'm always just like,
Yeah,
it's
so
just
do
football.
I just lie about.
Like, I just don't really do much else
Yeah.
but football. But yeah, just I like spending time with my friends. Like, I love a good coffee shop.
Yeah.
And just
Nice.
yeah, I don't really have any big interests away from football that I can.
Nothing wrong with that. Near da. Near da.
It's just always been football.
Yeah, I know. No, I'm the same, to be fair. Like, I'm weirdly obsessed with it. Not as much the playing side of it now, but definitely watching it and just kind of taking as much of it in as I can. How do you kind of balance the football life with, you know, other important aspects of your life, like education, work? How's that been for you?
It is really, really tough. I think for a lot of us, you know, like a lot of the girls at Motherwell have got full-time jobs alongside playing football to a really, really high level, and you're competing against players that are full-time, which is difficult. But I've always found that hard. You know, I've just graduated from uni, and I was obviously playing as well, and then I found it really hard to hold down a part-time job because I just had nothing left to give to my family life, social life. I think when you train and play so much, there is, as I say, a lot of sacrifice. But yeah, it is hard, I think, for female players. Obviously, still now, as I say, players in our team that have done it for years. Teachers that are playing to this level. It is mental. Yeah.
What did you study at uni?
I studied social sciences.
Oh, very nice. Interesting. And you mentioned you've recently started working at Nike.
Yeah.
Is that right? We can cut that out if you don't want people to know where you work. You might get paparazzi and stuff after this. Okay, sorry, I've lost my notes a wee bit. So can you tell me a wee bit about kind of the importance of women's football at grassroots level? So obviously, what age did you start playing?
I started playing really, really young, but I didn't get into a team probably until 8 or 9. I started. Yeah. With a boys' club. I didn't really last very long there, just with my brother's football sort of didn't really work out. And then I would say I properly started playing for a team, Glasgow City. Yeah. I was 10 years old, so I would say that's when I started properly with a team. I'd always kicked a ball. And But I would say Glasgow City at 10.
Cool. And how kind of important is that you know, girls' presence at grassroots football, do you think, you know, now compared to maybe what it was in the past?
Yeah, I think it's really important. I think as well, now there's obviously a lot more girls' teams. Yeah. We didn't know, looking for a girls' team, I remember my mum saying, I had no idea. Yeah. Who to contact. And I know there's a lot more now. Aye. And even girls playing in boys' teams, I think, is really important. Yeah. And you see a lot more of it, but I'm really big in trying to inspire girls to get into playing, and it's definitely a growing game. Yeah.
And how, again, this might be a bit of a tricky one, but how do you think kind of society in general can encourage just younger girls to participate in football and to be confident and to kind of do what you've done and not let the setbacks and stuff affect you, and just to have that mindset of I can make a career in this sport?
I think socially it's just changing the norm. I think there's still underlying that it's a male sport, and I think there's still a lot more further to go with that, and to normalise girls playing football. I think we're at a really good stage in comparison to where we were 10 years ago. Yeah. But I think it's just to keep on building on that, and to not stop here. There's so much more to go. Yeah. To have more of an equal game, and I think that will only inspire more girls to get into it. You can see it now, with the Women's Super League in England. The crowds have been selling out the Emirates. Crazy. And stuff like that, which is only going to inspire young girls at age 10 to get into playing. But I think there's just still a long way to go. You can see it, it's just to normalise it, I think.
100%. And the Lionesses, obviously, doing what they done in the last couple of tournaments and stuff as well is only going to inspire, you know, people, particularly in England, but just across the world really, and showing what you can do. Where do you kind of hope, say 10 years from now, that the women's game is at, particularly in Scotland, obviously, that's kind of close to home for you?
Yeah, well, I would like to think that the top flight would be full time.
Yeah.
By that time. Yeah, I think obviously it's so far to go to get to a stage where it's anywhere near the men's game. But yeah, I would like to think most teams were full time by then, and girls can see more of a career in football.
Yeah.
Already there's been mass improvements in the last couple of years.
I think it's definitely possible when you just compare kind of now to 10, 15 years ago and then think forward where it could be and what other kind of developments could have happened in that time. And obviously a lot more people kind of advocating for the women's game and stuff, more kind of global recognition, more role models for kind of younger girls like yourself as well. Can you share like any story or experience that kind of highlights the impact that football's had on your life? Anything that kind of comes to mind? Even like just the kind of best memories and stuff, like friends that you've made throughout like your time playing.
That is for me, like, I think going through school it's hard, you know, you come and go with friends, but I think all my long-term friendships have came from playing football.
Yeah.
Friends for life that I've met various stages. It was really good to have that outside of school. I think I'd have really struggled if I didn't have that. So I think sport in general is obviously really, really, really good for kids.
No, 100%.
In that sense, but yeah.
No, I totally agree. Like some of my kind of longest friends that I've had probably even before pals that I made at school and stuff I've been through like playing football with from like a really young age, and you just like stay in touch and actually could have got friends for life and like a good network of people. And even just working here, for example, it's been great coming from that background and playing football and coaching football, because it ties in, you know, to what we do here at Class for Kids, and it's just kind of stood me in good stead for my whole life really. I think, touch wood. Okay, again, I've kind of asked this already, but if you could give one final piece of advice to young girls like who aspire to play professional football, what would it be?
I'd just say never give up. Keep that dream. Like, it's still a dream for me, and it has been since I was young, and I think it's just to keep believing in your ability and never give up on it.
What did I tell you?
Okay, you know that I hate saying this. I hate to say that you were right, but Lucy is one to watch, and she is a rising star of the future in the football world.
She is, absolutely. It was a great interview. I mean, Daz is getting too good for this, which is a bit worrying.
I know, I feel like we're slowly being pushed out of all these spaces, but do you know what? The viewers have probably had enough of us. Nobody wants to see our faces anymore. I think it's great to have a range of people from across the business, because, like you've said, people have different skill sets, people have different interests, so it's great to have them included in the podcast, and of course, interviewing stars like Lucy. And yeah, great to hear her story, very inspiring. And of course, rehab for her injury seems to be going well. Yeah,
and I hope it just continues to improve for her. We definitely will be catching up with her again in 2024. We will watch her career now with keen interest. She's one of us now, basically, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, when you come on the podcast, you kind of become like one of Class for Kids. So, like Stephen said at the start, if you want to come on in the club, or if you want to come on in the club at the club, all you need to do is drop us a message below on our Instagram, or you can message us via @ClassForKidsUK.
Yep.
And can you believe, Stephen, that we are in November, and that means that after this podcast drop, there's no one more podcast left of 2023.
That means that when we enter January 2024 will be the third year that we've been running this podcast.
Maybe we could have like a little birthday celebration or something like that.
That's a good idea.
Us with party hats and cakes. People will love to see that.
Or we could have like a podcast off with At the Club versus In the Club.
Oh yeah.
Like that idea.
Let's just look at Brian right now.
Yep.
Yeah, Brian's nodding, so that's fine. We're going to have a little...
He's up for it.
Yeah, okay, there's going to be a meeting of minds.
Meeting of pods?
Meeting of pods, yeah. Okay. So I guess the next podcast, to give listeners a little bit of an insight, might be a little bit of a wrap-up on everything that's happened at Class for Kids.
It may well be. We tend to do that at the end of a year,
Some juicy stats from what we've seen across our customer base, what clubs have been up to and how they've been succeeding in 2023. Might be coming to your ears very soon.
But before that, remember, At the Club will be more frequent than this. We'll be publishing it on YouTube exclusively, but as a Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, you'll be able to get it in all the same places you can get this. It'll just appear in your feed magically, and give it a listen. Brian's very, very good. And I'm sure if you enjoy this, you'll enjoy that. Should we wrap up?
I think we should. What do we do at the end of a podcast again? Does Brian have this bit here in his podcast?
No, he doesn't have a hook.
Oh, yeah,
He needs to get
well,
himself a
then,
hook.
Brian,
What
yeah.
could it look- so we know what ours is, right?
Yeah.
What could Brian's be? It could be like, because we do 1, 2, 3, bye.
Yeah.
You could go 3, 2, 1, bye.
Yeah. There we
So
go.
we'll
And it's
do
kind
that.
of like consistent. So we're going to do one
Three,
by.
two, one.
Okay, you lead.
Okay. 3,
2.
1.
Bye.